Your brain is lying to you, not because it wants to, but because someone reprogrammed it to doubt, to forget, to fail. Bruna thought she was losing her mind, forgetting conversations, mixing up memories, constantly making mistakes. She consulted doctors, took medication, tried everything, but nothing worked because the problem wasn't inside her brain, it was beside her, whispering lies, rewriting reality, slowly rebuilding her mind against herself. This isn't a metaphor. This is neuroscience. Psychological violence physically changes your brain, damages it, rewires it, turns it into your own enemy, and you don't even know it's happening until you can no longer trust your own thoughts. This is the story of how words can kill neurons, how manipulation becomes brain damage, and how Bruna discovered her mind was being destroyed before it was too late. Is your brain working against you now? Let's find out. If you're starting to doubt your own mind, sign up now. What you'll learn could save your brain before the damage becomes permanent. Bruna met Felipe at a corporate event. He was a lawyer, successful, confident. When he approached her, Bruna was flattered. "You're the most interesting person here," he said. They talked for hours. Felipe had strong opinions on everything: politics, economics, art. Bruna loved listening. He seemed so intelligent, so self-assured. When she shared a different opinion, Felipe smiled. "Interesting perspective, but let me show you the side you're not seeing." And he explained, calmly, logically, patiently. Bruna began to realize that he was always right, always knew more, always saw beyond. She felt lucky to learn from him, to have access to that brilliant mind. In a few weeks, she was already consulting Felipe about everything: what clothes to wear, what movie to watch, how to reply to a work email. Felipe always had the right answer. The first few months were a constant lesson. Felipe corrected Bruna, not aggressively, but educationally. Actually, that's the correct term. That's what you meant, right? Because what you said doesn't make sense. Let me rephrase what you tried to say. Bruna thanked him. She was learning, becoming smarter, more articulate. At least, that's what she thought. When they went out with friends, Felipe corrected Bruna in front of everyone. "Honey, you're telling the wrong story. This is how it happened." Bruna laughed awkwardly. "That's true. My memory is terrible." The friends felt uncomfortable, but Felipe seemed genuinely concerned about keeping the facts correct. Bruna started speaking less in public. It was safer, less risky, less embarrassing. Felipe complimented her when she was quiet. "You look even more beautiful when you just listen." Bruna smiled, but inside, something was withering. Felipe had a way of rewriting reality. Bruna would tell Felipe something that had happened. Felipe would listen, and then he would say, "It wasn't quite like that. You're remembering it wrong." Bruna would get confused. She was sure of what she had seen, of what she had heard. But Felipe was so convinced, so meticulous. "You said you were going to do this. I remember perfectly." Bruna started writing down conversations, to be sure. But when she showed them to Felipe, he would laugh. "You're writing down our conversations? That's paranoia, love." Bruna felt crazy. Maybe she was exaggerating. Maybe her memory really was bad. Felipe also started interpreting her feelings. "You're not really upset about it. You're tired. You're not angry. You're hungry." Bruna accepted it. Maybe he knew her better than she knew herself. Weapon number 1 was in full swing: deconstruction of personal reality. Felipe wasn't just disagreeing with Bruna, he was erasing her version of things, replacing it with his own, and he was doing it so systematically that Bruna began to doubt her own thoughts. Weapon number 2 also operated through constant emotional invalidation. Every feeling Bruna had was reinterpreted, renamed, corrected, until she no longer knew what she truly felt. She only knew what Felipe said she felt. In 6 months, Bruna had lost confidence in her own perception. She checked with Felipe before forming any opinion, before making any decision, before feeling any emotion. He had become the translator of her reality, and Bruna didn't even realize she was being erased, word by word, thought by thought, until only his voice remained echoing in her head. A year later, Bruna no longer recognized her own mind. She forgot things, constantly. Names, dates, entire conversations. Felipe sighed. "Your memory is getting worse and worse. You should see a doctor." Bruna made an appointment with a neurologist. She had tests done. Everything was normal. But she kept forgetting. What she had eaten for breakfast, where she had put her keys, what she had said 5 minutes ago. Felipe was always there to fill in the gaps. "You said you were going to do this. You promised that. You agreed to this yesterday." Bruna accepted it because she really didn't remember, and Felipe always remembered. Everything, in detail, with precision, as if he had a recording in his head. Bruna began to depend on his memory, like a cognitive crutch, without knowing that he was creating the gaps that he later filled in. Weapon number 3 was destroying Bruna. Intentional cognitive overload. Felipe bombarded Bruna with information, corrections, contradictions, reinterpretations. Her brain was in a constant state of confusion, trying to process, trying to remember, trying to understand. But the more she tried, the more lost she became. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The more you squeeze, the more escapes. Bruna's brain was exhausted, depleted, and exhausted brains make mistakes. They forget things. They scramble memories. Felipe used these mistakes as proof. "See, you forgot again. You can't trust your own head." And Bruna believed him because the evidence was there. She really did forget. She really did get confused. She really did make mistakes. She didn't know she was being led astray intentionally. Bruna began having anxiety attacks, panic attacks. She would wake up in the middle of the night sweating, with a racing heart, unable to breathe. Felipe would calm her down. "Shh, it's okay, I'm here." But he would also say, "You're becoming unstable. This worries me." Bruna went to psychiatrists. She took medication for anxiety, for depression, to sleep. Nothing completely improved because the problem wasn't inside her, it was beside her. Felipe also started telling people about Bruna's instability. She's not well. She's having these episodes. Her memory is terrible. Sometimes she makes things up. Bruna listened and agreed. "It's true, I'm not well." She didn't realize that Felipe was creating a narrative, preparing the ground, so that when she finally challenged something, no one would believe her. After all, she was the unstable one, the confused one, the one who couldn't trust her own mind. Weapon number 4. It operated silently. Isolation through mental disqualification. Bruna's friends began to distance themselves, not because Felipe asked them to, but because Bruna was different. She forgot to reply to messages, she canceled plans at the last minute, and when she went out, she was apathetic, distant, as if she were somewhere else. A friend tried to talk to her. "Bruna, you're not yourself anymore. What's happening?" Bruna started to cry. "I don't know. I think I'm going crazy." Her friend held her hand. "Or someone is making you think that." But Bruna shook her head. "No, it's me. My brain is broken." And she believed it, deeply. Because when you're bombarded daily with evidence that your mind doesn't work, you start to believe it. Your brain turns against you, and the abuser doesn't need to do anything anymore. You finish the job yourself. In 2012, neuroscientist Dr. Martin Teicher of Harvard Medical School made a devastating discovery. He scanned the brains of victims of chronic verbal abuse and found physical damage, not metaphorical damage, but physical damage. The brain's white matter was damaged, specifically in areas connecting the hemispheres. The corpus callosum was compromised. This means that the ability to process information was impaired. The brain's internal communication was broken. Dr. Teicher compared the scans with victims of severe physical abuse. The damage was equivalent. Words cause brain injury. This is not an exaggeration. This is not drama. This is neuroscience. Bruna wasn't imagining that her memory was failing. Her brain was literally being damaged by Felipe's words, by constant psychological violence. And she didn't even know that violence could be invisible. A 2016 study from the University of Geneva analyzed something specific: gaslighting. They took 500 victims and measured brain activity. They discovered that the area responsible for certainty and confidence was suppressed. The dorsal anterior cingulate cortex showed abnormally low activity. Translation: victims of gaslighting neurologically lose the ability to trust their own perceptions. It's not a choice. It's not a weakness of character. It's a physical change in the brain. The researchers also discovered an increase in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for fear and social anxiety. That's why Bruna had panic attacks. That's why she had a constant fear of being wrong. Her brain was being rebuilt to doubt herself and to fear judgment. Felipe wasn't just manipulating Bruna, he was reshaping her brain, transforming her into someone dependent on him to interpret reality. There's also the true story of Linda Bishop. In 2005, she was found frozen in her own home in New Hampshire. She had died of cold, with food in the refrigerator, with the heater running. Why? Because years of psychological abuse from her husband had destroyed her ability to make basic decisions. He had died years before, but the mental programming remained. She couldn't function on her own. Psychologists who studied the case were shocked. Psychological violence can be lethal, even without the physical presence of the abuser, because the abuse becomes internalized. It becomes a voice in your head saying that you are not capable, that you don't know, that you need someone to think for you. Linda had been programmed not to trust herself, and that killed her, literally. Bruna was on the same path. She had stopped trusting her own instincts, her own decisions, her own reality. A 2020 study from the University of Michigan did something revolutionary. They scanned the brains of victims before and after leaving abusive relationships, and they discovered something hopeful. The brain can heal, but it takes time. A lot of time. On average, 18 months to begin recovering a normal cognitive function. And only if the person is completely out of the abusive environment and receiving specialized therapy. This explains why it's so hard to leave, why so many go back. Because at the moment you need your brain functioning most, it's most damaged. You need mental clarity to escape, but abuse stole your clarity. It's a perfect trap. Did Felipe know this? Probably not consciously, but abusers intuitively understand that mental confusion breeds control. The less you trust yourself, the more you depend on them, and dependence is power. The study also showed that victims who don't receive help continue to suffer permanent damage. Bruna was racing against time before the damage became irreversible. The breakdown came unexpectedly. Bruna was driving, Felipe was beside her. She stopped at a red light. Felipe said, "The light is green. Why did you stop?" Bruna looked. Red. Clearly red. "Honey, it's red." Felipe insisted. "It's green. You're seeing things." Bruna looked again. Red. She was sure. Absolutely sure. For the first time in months, she was sure of something. "Felipe, the light is red." He laughed. "Bruna, you need to make an appointment with an ophthalmologist. Seriously." But something clicked inside her. She looked at the cars beside her, all stopped, waiting. The light was red, and Felipe was lying, consciously, shamelessly, and she saw it with brutal clarity. He always knew he was lying, that he was distorting things, that he was destroying her on purpose. When they got home, Bruna didn't say anything, but she started testing. Small tests. She would tell Felipe something that had happened. Felipe would change the story, as always. But this time, Bruna had recorded the original conversation. She had proof. She showed it to him. Felipe blinked. "You're recording me? That's sick, Bruna. You're paranoid." But Bruna wasn't fazed. "I have the proof here." You're lying. Felipe changed tactics. He got angry. You don't trust me after everything I've done for you? Weapon number 5, in action, victim reversal when confronted. But Bruna had seen the truth, and she couldn't unsee it anymore. She spent the following week documenting everything, every contradiction, every rewriting of reality. Every time Felipe denied something, she had proof happened. The list grew and grew and grew. Bruna made an appointment with a therapist, alone, without telling Felipe. In the first session, she poured everything out. The recordings, the notes, the contradictions. The therapist listened in silence. When Bruna finished, the therapist said something that changed everything. You're not crazy. You're being abused. Bruna started to cry. But he never hit me. He never yelled. The therapist held her hand. Psychological violence is as real as physical violence, and sometimes more destructive because nobody sees it, not even you. Bruna felt relief and horror at the same time. Relief because she wasn't going crazy, horror because she had lost 2 years to a man who systematically destroyed her mind. The therapist explained, your brain has been reprogrammed, but it can be reprogrammed. It will take time, but you will recover your mind. Bruna decided at that moment she was going to leave before she completely lost who she was. When Bruna told Felipe she was going to break up with him, he wasn't angry. He was calm, frighteningly calm. It's okay, but you know you won't be able to live alone, right? You can't even remember what you ate for breakfast. How are you going to make important decisions? Weapon number 5, the self-sabotage of self-confidence on the way out. Felipe planted the seed of doubt, and Bruna felt it. The fear, the uncertainty. Maybe he was right. Maybe she couldn't. But the therapist had warned, he's going to try to make you doubt yourself. It's his last card. Don't fall for it. Bruna took a deep breath. I'll find out without you. She left. She took only one suitcase. She went to her sister's house. In the first few months, it was terrible. Bruna checked everything 3 times. She didn't trust her own decisions. She called her sister to confirm. Did I really say that? Did that really happen? But little by little, her memory returned. Her confidence returned. Her voice returned. Her brain began to heal. Slowly, but it healed. A year later, Bruna saw Felipe on the street. He was with another woman, speaking for her, correcting her, rewriting what she had just said. Bruna recognized the pattern and felt pity for the girl and gratitude for having escaped before completely forgetting who she was. Let's name exactly what Felipe did to Bruna. These are the 6 weapons that will rebuild your brain against you. Weapon number 1, deconstruction of personal reality. He doesn't just disagree, he erases your version of the facts. He replaces it with his own until you no longer know what is real. You only know what he says is real. Weapon number 2, constant emotional invalidation. He reinterprets your every feeling. You're not upset, you're tired, until you no longer know what you really feel, only what he says you feel. Weapon number 3, intentional cognitive overload. He bombards you with contradictions, corrections, reinterpretations, until your brain collapses from confusion and starts to fail, to forget, to make mistakes. And he uses those mistakes as proof that you can't trust yourself. Weapon number 4, isolation through mental disqualification. He doesn't stop you from seeing people. He just tells everyone that you're unstable, confused, unreliable, until nobody believes in you anymore, not even yourself. Weapon number 5, victim reversal when confronted. When you finally show him proof, he turns the tables. You're recording me? You're paranoid. He makes your sanity seem like madness, your protectiveness seem like illness. Weapon number 6, sabotaging self-confidence on the way out. When you try to leave, he plants doubt. You can't live alone. Look how bad your memory is. He uses the damage he caused as an argument for you to stay. It's diabolical, it's calculated, and it physically destroys your brain. Science proves it. This is not an exaggeration. Dr. Martin Teicher of Harvard showed that verbal abuse causes physical brain damage. The brain's white matter is damaged, communication between hemispheres is compromised. Studies from Geneva prove that gaslighting neurologically suppresses your ability to trust yourself. It's not weakness, it's a physical change in the brain. Linda Bishop's story shows the extreme. She died because years of abuse destroyed her ability to function on her own. Psychological violence kills, not always physically, but it kills who you were. But there is hope. Studies from Michigan show that the brain can heal. It takes time, 18 months on average, but it can, if you completely break free and seek help. Bruna is healing. Her brain is rebuilding itself, now in her favor, not against her. You can too. So here are 3 lessons that can save your brain. Lesson number 1. If you are constantly doubting your memory and perception, document everything. Record conversations, take notes, take screenshots. Not because you're paranoid, but because you need proof when your brain is being sabotaged. The truth needs evidence, especially when someone is rewriting it daily. Lesson number 2. If you're taking medication for anxiety or depression and nothing is improving, look at who's by your side. Sometimes the problem isn't chemical, it's environmental. You don't need more medication, you need to get out of the toxic environment. Your brain isn't broken, it's being broken. Lesson number 3. If someone constantly tells you that you are crazy, unstable, or confused, leave immediately. This is the most dangerous weapon because when you believe, you stop fighting, you accept, and you surrender. Don't accept. Fight. Get out before the damage is permanent. Bruna now helps other women recognize psychological violence. She tells her story, she shows the recordings, the notes, the evidence of how she was systematically destroyed and rebuilt. She says something powerful. My brain was my biggest victim and my biggest victory, because when you recover your mind, you recover your life. Felipe tried to contact her several times. I've changed. I miss you. That girl you saw means nothing. But Bruna blocked him because she knows the truth. Abusers don't change. They only change victims, and they use the same manual, the same weapons, the same tricks. The girl Bruna saw with Felipe still doesn't know she's being reprogrammed, but maybe you do. Maybe you're feeling your mind turning against you. It's not you, it's violence. And you can stop it before you completely forget who you were. Your brain can heal, but only if you leave now. If this story made you question your own sanity, do 3 things now. First, subscribe to this channel. We expose the invisible violence that silently destroys minds. Second, scroll down to the comments and tell me, are you doubting your own mind, or have you already healed? Your story might awaken someone who still thinks they're going crazy. And third, it doesn't stop here. There's much more truth waiting for you. Every week, we bring you real stories of psychological abuse, mind control, and recovery. The next story could save your brain. Stay with us, because knowledge is the only weapon against those who use your mind against you. And you've just armed yourself.